Good morning and welcome back to the final session of the 5th Annual Conference of the International Federation for Therapeutic and Counselling Choice. Watch this clip.
Good morning. It's good to see you all again. I've been a therapist for 15 years, and during that time I've done most of my work with men with unwanted same-sex attraction, and I've sort of compiled a list of things that we should do as therapists and counselors and a list of things that we shouldn't do. So I came up with 10 do's and 10 don'ts. That's 20 slides. I plan on spending about 2 minutes on each slide and then maybe 5 minutes for questions and answers, and then that will be it. Okay, so let's get started. There's nothing there. Oops, wrong direction. Sorry about that. So this is do's and don'ts for counseling men struggling with unwanted same-sex attraction. Also for boys, huh? Number 1, familiarize yourself with the salient theories regarding the etiology of homosexuality. The etiology is what causes homosexuality. Clients are often interested in understanding how they became homosexual. Do familiarize yourself with the salient theories regarding the etiology of homosexuality. These include family systems theories and theories related to trauma and sexual abuse. Do understand that sexual abuse is a predictor of later homosexuality. Harvard University did a very comprehensive study and found that in cases of sexual abuse, there is a greater likelihood of adult male homosexuality. Okay? Sexual abuse in childhood predicts later homosexuality. If you haven't already, do familiarize yourself with the works of psychologist Elizabeth Moberly and the late Dr. Joseph Nicolosi. Elizabeth Moberly came up with the term defensive detachment, or the idea of defensive detachment. And Dr. Nicolosi came up with the idea of shame as the root cause of homosexuality. Okay, two pioneers. Okay. Don't tell your client that a gene is responsible for his homosexuality. Many gay therapists still say that. That's false. This is not supported by the latest scientific findings. Likewise, don't tell your clients that homosexuality is a preference that develops like the preference for the flavors of ice cream. Some people like vanilla ice cream, some like chocolate. Some men like men, some men like women. That's false. And here's why it's false. When a man is attracted to a woman, her body, it's not because he wants those parts. Okay? When a man is attracted to a woman's breasts, for example, it's not because he wants breasts. But when a man is attracted to a man's body, often it is because he wants what the other guy has. And that's the difference. The gay rights movement tries to make you think that it's just one or the other. It doesn't matter. And that's to get you to be stupid. We're not stupid. We know there's a big difference. Okay? Likewise, don't state that prenatal hormones are responsible for his homosexuality. Studies that purport to support this hypothesis have not yielded the same results when replicated. I did a review of a study that was done with mothers who were part of PFLAG. And these mothers did a study in which they looked at prenatal hormones. But the mothers knew what the study was about, so they reported more anxiety during pregnancy. And so researchers believe that the anxiety caused a release of some immune-blocking substances that prevented the masculinization of the male brain. Okay? It was a very bad study because the participants knew what the hypotheses were. So studies have not replicated any prenatal link. Don't take the posture of some United States and UK pastors who view homosexuality as simply the opposite of heterosexuality. I see this all the time. I was talking to Denise yesterday about pastors in the United States. Many of them believe this. This is a myth. Terms like gay, straight, and bi are social constructs. Okay? They have only become identities because of the social and psychological benefits of establishing such identities. In reality, homosexuality could actually be considered a sexual fetish. A fetish is an object that gets eroticized. The purpose of the eroticization is twofold. One is to ward off painful feelings associated with the object to make them pleasurable. And the second is to achieve dominance over the object. When we sexualize an object, we have domination over it. So for many people, homosexuality is considered a fetish. And I passed this idea before the late Dr. Joseph Nicolosi, before he died. I sent him an email about this. And he said, yes, most fetishes are inanimate objects, but if you extend the definition to animate objects, homosexuality is a type of fetish. Number 2, conduct family therapy or counseling with minors. I am often asked by parents if I will counsel their 12-year-old son who has gender identity issues or same-sex attraction issues, and I say, I'm sorry, I won't. I will counsel the entire family, or at least the parents, okay? For clients who are under the age of 18, do conduct family therapy or counseling with the client and at least the parents to address the client's issues. Do address the functional and dysfunctional ways in which fathers and mothers relate to their sons, and do point out any double binds the client may find himself in. Does anyone know what a double bind is? No? Nobody? Damned if you do and damned if you don't. So Johnny, you should speak up more. Mr. Vazzo says you need to assert. So the young man asserts, don't ever speak to me that way. Okay? No matter what you do, you're wrong. This causes intense frustration in the young man and causes him to shut down. Okay? Don't do individual therapy or counseling for minors if at all possible, since the family environment plays a major role in the development of homosexuality. Your efforts will not yield good results if you only treat the son. Okay? I had a case where I treated a young man. He was actually 18, but still living with his parents. So I considered him an adult. I treated him individually. And the father said, I want a session with you. I said, okay, you can come to your son's session. My son told me that you think that I'm the cause of all his problems. I said, I do. I said, sir, because if that's how you speak to people, including me, someone you don't even know, I do. I'm not going to lie. Okay, number 3, this is very important. Do get male family members involved with the young man whenever possible. Grandfathers, fathers, older brothers, uncles, and male cousins can all help the man feel honorable and part of the male family clan. Do elicit their help. We have a big problem in the United States, and the problem is that everybody moves away, right? You start with the family, and you have the parents in Florida, the grandparents in California, the uncles in Oregon. It's a big, big problem. People are constantly moving. When people move, you lose the support system. So whenever you can, get other men in the family involved. Okay, don't allow any form of physical or emotional abuse to go unaddressed. If any family member sabotages the man's sense of masculinity or harms him physically or emotionally, take a strong stance against the dysfunctional and harmful behavior and ask a responsible family member to address the salient issues. Okay, as therapists, we don't want to tolerate any abuse. Often there's physical abuse by an older brother. There's name calling. I had a case of a man who was actually in his 40s who had an older brother who would still harass him and say nasty things to him. So I told my client to assert with his older brother. And his older brother punched him in the mouth and knocked out teeth. This is a true story. Okay? So we want to address any abuse. Don't allow mothers to continue to use their sons as confidants. One of the problems in homosexuality is we often have an enmeshed mother with the son. And don't allow mothers to sleep with their sons after age 5. I cannot tell you the number of clients I've had who said that mom sleeps with them. A client in his 20s. They have a house in California. If you know anything about California, it's very expensive. So her excuse was, we need to use the other rooms in the house to rent out, to make money, and so my son sleeps with me. I said, absolutely not, unacceptable. Okay? It's a boundary violation. Do encourage your client to cultivate male friendships. Do encourage your clients to invest in male friendships as opposed to female friendships, at least at the beginning of counseling. Do encourage your client to develop male friendships with heterosexual males to deepen their sense of male identity. If they try to make friends with homosexual males, what could happen? They could sleep together. They also will become frustrated because they're each looking for the same thing. Okay? Do pay attention to resistance in this area. Resistance is very common, and it's a sign of defensive detachment or shame. I often ask my clients, why don't you try to talk to some of the men in your church group? No, they like football or basketball, and I'm not into that. I said, no, try to reach out. Try to learn something about them. Well, what am I going to say? Ask them about themselves. Anytime you ask somebody about themselves, they'll start talking, right? It's not that hard. Okay. How are you? What do you do? I've seen you here many times, right? Do address narcissistic illusions and shame-based distortions. What is a narcissistic illusion? Anybody know? No? David? What's a narcissistic illusion?
A fantasy that's
Right. They're irrational fantasies. So sometimes our men will meet a friend and they'll say, he's the best guy in the world, right? Children do this. My dad is Superman. My dad is the best man in the world. My dad can do no harm. My dad can beat up your dad. Right? That's what they do. Children have lots of narcissistic illusions. Okay, what about shame-based distortions? Right? I'm not a good athlete. I'm clumsy. Nobody will like me. If I reach out to somebody at church, they won't talk to me. Those are shame-based distortions. Don't necessarily believe that if a client has close female friends, he is progressing in his issues. Usually the opposite is true. This man in the center, I guarantee you, has given up his male boundaries, his ego boundaries, and he's becoming one with the girls. Okay, that's not a sign of progress. I said to one client, I have a suspicion you don't have any friends. Well, of course I do. There's Mary, there's Janet, there's Jill, I said, wait a minute. Okay. Number 5, do encourage your client to engage in healthy physical activity with other males. Do encourage your client to find a male mentor, coach, personal trainer, etc. This will allow your client to get in touch with his own masculinity via another man's masculinity in a healthy way. When two men have sexual relations, they're getting in touch with each other in an unhealthy way. Okay? Do encourage your client to compete in sports and offer support if he fails to meet his own expectations. Many times clients will tell you, I'm not into sports. I don't like sports. Do you know the reason why? Because in their minds, sports equals shame. So what we want to do is to give them a chance to try again and to realize that everybody makes mistakes. Before I came here to the conference, I was with a good friend of mine in Britain, and we went to see Manchester United play Brighton. Okay, I'm a big Manchester United fan. And I noticed during the match there were players who made mistakes. They lost, they couldn't kick the ball, somebody took it over and scored a goal. It happens to the very best, and that's what our clients don't realize. That happens to the best of the players. Don't accept clients' excuses for not taking responsibility for themselves, and don't forget that anxiety and fear of shame are at the root of their resistance. Okay, remember, it's not so much that they don't like sports, it's they have anxiety about it. So if you can get them a good coach, a good friend to teach them, eventually that anxiety should subside. We don't want to force them, but we want to be able to see, is this really something they don't like, or is it because of their past experiences? Number 6, very important, do address your client's addictive behavior. Do address your client's addictions, including pornography and frequent masturbation. Big problems with this issue. I had a client referred to me several years ago. He was masturbating 4 or 5 times a day. Very serious, huh? It's an addiction. Pay attention to the nature of the fantasies and ask them about these. Clients are often, they have shame of even telling the therapist about their fantasies. And I ask my clients, I say, I want to know. I want to know because I want to help you. And I want you to feel comfortable with me. Okay, it's very important. Where there is eroticization, there is always a wound. Okay? If a client talks to you about that he's attracted to men with a hairy chest, you can be sure someone, maybe a father, an uncle, had a hairy chest. Okay? Where you have eroticization, you have a wound. Do ask them about the payoff of certain fantasies and behaviors, and do address any shame or embarrassment. Because what we want them to do is to come to a place where they believe, I can be me with you. The problem of homosexuality is I could not be me with dad. I could not be me with my brothers. I could not be me with my friends. So we want them to be able to be themselves with the therapist. Sometimes clients will tell me about a fantasy, and I will say, I want you to take me through the fantasy, the sexual fantasy. What are you going to do with this guy? I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. We're going to have sex. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And at the end, I say, I want you to look the man that you had sex with in the eyes. How do you feel right now? And they invariably say, I feel empty. Don't forget that pornography use and masturbation are affect regulators. Okay, clients will tell us that before they used pornography, they felt depressed, anxious, listless, restless, bored. That's called an affective state. An affective state is the emotional state that you have at any point in time. And our clients, before they use porn, report negative affective states. Don't reproach or chastise clients who have acted out or have difficulty remaining chaste. It's very common. In California, as you know, California is a very liberal state. I had one client, almost every session, he told me about acting out. So we have to explore it. What was happening to you before? What did you hope to achieve besides sex? Okay. Number 7, do focus on process with your client. Process is about what's happening to the client, how he's feeling, and your relationship with him during the counseling session. To focus on process, you will need to reflect what your client is saying and to mirror his feelings. Okay? Do focus on your client's body language and nonverbal cues. Often I can tell how a client is feeling as they walk down the hall to my office before the session. I look at their eyes, I look at their body language. How is he doing today, or she? Don't focus on content too much. You will win a battle but will lose the war. Okay? And don't cite verses from the Torah, Bible, or Quran unless the client is open to them. Sometimes even religious clients, they don't want to hear a pastor or someone telling them, if you do this, you're going to go to hell. We want to be very careful what we say. They need to be open to it. So, David, do you want to do a little role play on process? Of course. Okay. David, I'm going to make David work today. David is going to be a therapist, and I'm going to be a client, and I'm going to tell him lots of things, and he's going to focus first on process and then on content. Do you want to sit here? Or you want to? Let's sit here. Okay.
Are you still Robert?
I'm still Robert. Last time I checked.
Robert, it's good to see you today. How are you doing?
I'm not doing well at all. I'm mad at you. I'm tired of this IMTT and EMDR and all the things you've been doing. My homosexuality hasn't changed, and you know what? These sessions are getting really expensive. I've already paid you over $3,000, and I'm getting sick and tired of coming to therapy, and I'm just mad at you.
I can see that. Usually doesn't happen that dramatically, but I can see that I'm hearing you're angry, you're sick and tired of this. It seems to not be working, and you're spending a lot of money. Am I getting you?
I don't know if you're getting me.
Okay. Well, I can really see you look upset.
Well, I am upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me more about that if you want to. I'm
Yeah,
here
and you know,
to hear
last
you.
week you criticized me in session. You said that I wasn't paying attention to my affective state, whatever that means, and I felt like you criticized me.
I criticized you.
Yeah, you criticized me.
Yes.
Maybe I should get another therapist.
You can do that. I'm wondering if we could work this out between you and I so we could move forward. So do something that would really help you.
Okay, so you see he's focusing the attention on how I'm feeling, what's going on with me. Now we're going to do it where he focuses on what I say rather than how I'm feeling.
Well, Robert, how are you doing today?
Today's an awful day. I really didn't want to come here. I didn't want to see you. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'm tired of coming to therapy. I've spent a lot of money, and I don't think I'm getting any better.
Well, you know, I'm doing the best I can.
Well, I don't think you are. Remember last time we did IMTT? My numbers didn't drop at all.
Well, you know, this is the best therapy in the entire world. It's guaranteed to work.
Well, I don't think it is.
Well, I think you might want to need to be a little bit more patient, go through a few more sessions.
Okay, you see what's happening then? He's referring to, you know, I'm doing my best and the therapy's the best in the world and it works, and so I'm becoming more and more frustrated. So we want to focus on process, which is what is happening to the client.
Yeah, I made it all about me, if you noticed that.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, number 8, do a lot of listening. Your client needs to feel heard and understood. Do engage in a lot of empathic listening. This will help you form a close therapeutic alliance. Research has shown that a good working alliance is essential to the client's healing. Do refrain from talking about yourself unless your experience will immediately help the client. We are tempted to talk about ourselves. It's natural. We as human beings are naturally a little narcissistic. So if the client says, I felt insecure in class yesterday when the professor asked me some questions, and then you say, oh, the same thing happened to me when I was in school. I also felt insecure. You want to be careful, because the moment you start directing the attention towards yourself, then your client gets lost. Okay? Don't jump too fast into fixing the client's problems. My experience has been that many clients prefer just to talk during session, even after I have informed them of a great new therapeutic intervention. Okay? I've told clients about IMTT, and they say, you know what, I just want to talk today. I don't care about IMTT. And so then we listen. Now, we men have a little problem. We like to fix things, right? We love to fix things. If you have a problem, I'll fix it. That's very male, but not all clients want that right away. Okay? Do monitor yourself and your internal and external reactions. Sometimes when clients talk about their sexuality, about their experiences, we have reactions. Okay? Many men engage in a practice called fisting. Fisting is when a man inserts his arm up the rectum of another man. I had a client talk about this in session. He did this. And so I told myself, Robert, just keep a straight face. Just listen. No reactions. Okay? So do monitor your countertransferential reactions. That's the reactions of the therapist or counselor. Do try to ask yourself about what's behind your reactions. If I find something strange, gross, odd, what is it about me? What's happening inside me? If you're not a licensed therapist, do refer your client to a licensed professional, and if he has a disorder that is interfering with the therapy and the therapeutic alliance. Okay? Many of our clients have what's called borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder is a disorder of attachment. Homosexuality is an issue of poor attachment. This is very common. People with borderline personality disorder get angry very quickly in session. Okay? When I was here with David, I was pretending a little bit that I was borderline. Just getting angry, blaming him for everything. So if you have a client like that, and you start to notice, I can't help this person, I'm getting very frustrated, then you need to refer them to somebody else. Don't take on cases that you can't comfortably handle. Don't forget to address your own self-care, which may include your own therapy. Okay? Self-care can be a massage. Self-care could be what I did in Britain. I went to a football game I wanted to see. Self-care can be walking with your spouse at night and maybe having dinner together. Whatever you need to take care of yourself as a therapist or counselor. Don't allow your client to establish an unavoidable dual relationship with you. And if you are his pastor, be careful about how you treat the client in non-therapeutic settings. Maybe your client has an attraction to children. Maybe he hasn't acted on it. If you're in church with the client and the client's around children, what are you going to say? Hey, John, hey, Mark, you can't be around children. Remember what you told me? Okay. We have to be very careful when we have what's called a dual relationship. Pastor and counselor is a dual relationship. Okay. 10, know what to do in an emergency. Do establish a plan for threats of harm to self and others, and do have a plan in place for a client's mental health emergencies. I've been doing this 15 years, and I guarantee you I've had clients who say, you know what, I'm sick of this, I'm tired of therapy, I think I might just someday just kill myself. And then you have to say, whoa, and you have to assess for suicidality. Okay, it's not common, but it does happen. They get depressed, anxious, and feel like quitting. And then do evaluate each situation accordingly. Don't ignore telltale signs of suicide or possible suicide. This therapy is often very difficult and taxing for clients, and the threat of suicide is always possible.